Imagine, you've saved for months. You've watched every travel vlog. You've packed your bags, booked your flights, and told everyone, I'm going to Malaysia. And then you get there, and something feels off. Not dangerous, not terrible, just not what you expected. Every single year, millions of tourists land in Kuala Lumpur with stars in their eyes. And every single year, a growing number of them come home saying the same thing. I don't think I'd go back. So, what is Malaysia not telling you? And why is one of Southeast Asia's most beautiful countries quietly losing the tourist satisfaction war?
Stay with me.
Because this story goes much deeper than bad hotel reviews. Malaysia is, on paper, a dream destination. Ancient rainforests older than the Amazon. Street food so good it feels illegal. Beaches, islands, mountains, mega malls, luxury hotels, and a skyline that looks like the future. In 2019, Malaysia welcomed over 26 million international tourists. Tourism isn't just important here. It's one of the pillars holding up the economy. But something has started changing. The online conversations feel different now. Reddit threads, TikTok comments, travel forums. A growing number of visitors are saying the same thing. Malaysia looked amazing online, but the actual experience felt disappointing. And this isn't about one bad trip. This is about expectations colliding with reality. Let's start with the thing nobody puts in the travel brochure. You land at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. You're tired, hungry, slightly confused. And immediately, the negotiation begins. Taxi touts, random friendly strangers, overpriced rides, scam attempts around tourist areas that have existed for decades. Malaysia has scams that are so well known they practically have historical significance at this point. The infamous gem scam in Chinatown? Tourists have been reporting it since the early 2000s. Same script, same tricks, same disappointment. A stranger befriends you, invites you for tea, talks business, takes you to a jeweler's store. $400 later, you realize your investment is basically decorative gravel. And here's what frustrates tourists the most. These scams aren't hidden.
Authorities know about them.
Travel bloggers know about them. TripAdvisor threads have documented them for years. Yet somehow they survive. Because tourist arrival numbers still look good even when tourist satisfaction doesn't. Malaysia still gets the visitor count, but disappointment leaves the country quietly. Now here's where things get interesting. Malaysia actually has good infrastructure. Kuala Lumpur's MRT system is modern, efficient, clean, air-conditioned, everything you want after walking outside for 5 minutes in tropical humidity. The highways are solid. The airports are internationally respected. But step outside KL, and the experience gets inconsistent fast. Georgetown, Malacca, Kota Kinabalu, beautiful places. But getting around? Different story. Public transport becomes unreliable. Sidewalks randomly disappear. Motorcycles use pedestrian walkways like bonus highways. And walking in Malaysian cities can genuinely feel like a survival challenge. One travel writer described it as an extreme sport disguised as tourism. And honestly, that's harsh. But also not entirely wrong. Because Malaysia has world-class destinations trapped inside infrastructure that sometimes feels unfinished. Now, let's talk about the heat. Because nobody, and I mean nobody, properly warns tourists about Malaysian heat. This is not summer weather. This is the sun conducting a personal experiment on humanity. Malaysia sits close to the equator, with temperatures regularly hitting 32 to 35 degrees Celsius alongside humidity levels that make your soul sweat. You step outside for 10 minutes and suddenly understand why every shopping mall has aggressive air conditioning. Take Batad Caves, for example, one of Malaysia's most famous tourist attractions. 272 stairs. No real shade. Direct sunlight. Humidity levels that make your phone overheat before your body does. And tourists arrive expecting a relaxed sightseeing experience because the tourism ads showed smiling people casually exploring outdoors. What the ads don't show is the mandatory recovery period afterward inside the nearest convenience store freezer section. This is where the contradiction begins. Malaysia markets aspiration. Tourists experience exhaustion. Now here's the painful part, because Malaysian food is genuinely incredible. Not good for Southeast Asia. Not good street food. I mean world-class. Nasi lemak, roti canai, laksa, char kway teow. Malaysia has dishes capable of healing emotional trauma. Anthony Bourdain loved Malaysian food so much it sounded spiritual whenever he talked about it. So, why do some tourists still complain? Because they're eating the wrong version of it. The famous tourist food spots, especially around heavily visited areas, are increasingly becoming performance stages for visitors instead of authentic local food culture. The truly magical food? It migrated into residential neighborhoods, tiny roadside stalls, random food courts hidden behind apartment blocks. The best Malaysian meals are often served by somebody's auntie at 7 a.m. in a place with no influencer lighting and chairs that look emotionally exhausted. Meanwhile, tourists follow TikTok recommendations into overpriced tourist corridors serving average food with beautiful presentation. And when the food disappoints in Malaysia, everything disappoints. Because food isn't just part of the experience here. It is the experience. Now we need to talk about culture.
Carefully.
Malaysia is one of the most multicultural countries in Asia. Malay, Chinese,
Indian,
indigenous communities, mosques beside temples beside churches. It's genuinely fascinating. But for many tourists, especially Western visitors, there's a cultural adjustment nobody properly explains beforehand. Dress codes at religious sites are stricter than expected. Alcohol exists, but not everywhere equally. Public behavior that feels normal in Europe or North America can attract uncomfortable attention here. And then there's the legal side. Malaysia still maintains conservative laws around sexuality and public morality that surprise many first-time visitors. For LGBTQ+ travelers especially, this becomes a major concern. And this creates one of Malaysia's biggest contradictions. The country wants global tourism while maintaining a conservative domestic identity. It wants international openness without fully westernizing socially. And the result can feel confusing to outsiders. Not fully restrictive, not fully liberal, just complicated. And then there's the comparison Malaysia can never escape. Singapore. Singapore and Malaysia are like siblings where one became a luxury perfectionist and the other stayed naturally gifted but inconsistent. Singapore engineered tourism. Everything feels intentional. From the airport experience, to public transport, to signage, to cleanliness. Malaysia, meanwhile, often feels more authentic, but also less polished. And here's the brutal reality. A huge number of tourists experience Singapore first before entering Malaysia, which means Malaysia is constantly being compared against one of the most efficient countries on Earth. That's a difficult comparison for anybody. Singapore feels engineered. Malaysia feels organic. And depending on the traveler, that difference either becomes charm or frustration. But here's why this story refuses to become a simple criticism video. Because when Malaysia works, it's unbelievable. Borneo's rainforests, Langkawi's beaches, the Cameron Highlands, the cultural energy of Penang, the warmth of ordinary Malaysians, the late-night food culture, the mix of languages, religions, and traditions existing side by side. Malaysia has moments that feel genuinely magical. And that's why the disappointment hits harder. Because tourists can see the potential. They catch glimpses of something extraordinary. But the overall experience sometimes struggles to consistently deliver on that promise. Malaysia's problem is not lack of beauty. It's the gap between potential and execution. And in modern tourism, that gap matters more than ever. Because tourists today compare experiences globally in real time. One disappointing experience becomes a TikTok. One scam becomes a Reddit thread. One bad food recommendation becomes a YouTube rant with 2 million views. Tourism today is no longer just about attractions. It's about experience design. End-to-end. Arrival to departure. And the countries winning right now are the ones obsessing over consistency. So, what does this mean for you?
Simple.
Don't cancel your Malaysia trip.
Seriously.
Malaysia is still one of the most interesting, affordable, and culturally rich countries in Southeast Asia. But go informed. Research properly. Use Grab instead of random taxis. Look for food spots locals actually visit. Respect religious spaces and local customs. Prepare for the heat like you're entering a climate boss battle. And understand something important. Most tourist regret about Malaysia doesn't come from the country being bad. It comes from expectations being inaccurate. And expectations can be managed.
Here's how this story ends.
2 futures. In one future, Malaysia invests heavily in tourist experience, not just marketing. Cleaner pedestrian infrastructure, stronger scam enforcement, better preservation of authentic food culture, smarter communication with international visitors. And Malaysia becomes one of the defining destinations of Asia for the next generation. That future is absolutely possible. But there's another future too. One where tourist disappointment slowly grows. Where travelers increasingly choose Thailand, Vietnam, Bali, or Singapore instead. Where Malaysia becomes known as a place with incredible potential that somehow never fully delivers. And honestly, the country is standing at that crossroads right now. Because modern tourism isn't just about attracting visitors anymore. It's about making them want to come back. So now I want to hear from you. If you visited Malaysia, what was your experience actually like? Did it exceed your expectations? Or did you leave feeling like you almost discovered something amazing but never fully reached it? Drop your experience in the comments. And if this video made you think differently about travel, tourism, or Malaysia itself, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone planning their next trip. Because the world looks very different when you stop traveling like a tourist and start observing like a documentarian. Outro music. End screen.